Newsom and Hochul are also sanctuary city people, while old JB never met a leftist cause he didn't like. But now the governors who are welcoming and woke are also desperate. Thousands of foreign nationals are showing up in their states, and many have to be fed and housed. JB says Illinois has spent $330 million on the situation and is begging President Biden to reimburse. The president will not. Remember Barack Obama's pastor, Reverend Wright, saying, "The chickens have come home to roost"? Well, pass the salt, more chicken is on the table. The woke left thought it was swell to thumb its collective nose at U.S. immigration law. It wasn't inclusive or welcoming, so we, the progressives, will ignore it. And that's what they did. Now, chaos is here, courtesy of President Biden, who has absolutely no idea what he is doing from day to day. In the process, hardworking Americans have to pay the bills for this colossal mismanagement of the border and immigration months before the next election. And the chickens are waiting. I'm Bill O'Reilly. I approve the message by writing it. You can reach me, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, name and town if you wish to opine. Now let's go to the mail. Gary, Matt Gaetz is trying to hold McCarthy to the promises he made to become speaker, which he's not doing. You know, you got to give all of these leadership positions a little time, in my opinion. I think McCarthy wants to do what's best for the country, but you've got to be realistic about things. Gaetz isn't, in my opinion. He's a bomb thrower. Lisa, Mr. O, I hardly contribute to the economy for the above reasons. I cook pretty much every night, pack leftovers for lunch. Our grocery bill is outrageous. You know, look, I want a consumer revolt, Lisa. I don't want you to be in a hardship, and I want you to be smart about, you know, what you buy and what you don't buy. But I told everybody yesterday, when I walk into a deli and order chicken with rice soup and the guy says it's $14, I walk out of the deli. I'm not a SAP. SAP. Anna, concierge member, I totally agree. Prices for clothing and shoes are already extremely high. It's mostly junk. I never go to the coffee places. I make my own coffee. I'm telling you, you're on my wavelength, Anna. The $6 coffees. Why don't you just set your money on fire? Okay, I sit there. I'm just amazed. And in my area, these gourmet coffee places, packed. Kim, too many parents are having to quietly tell their children to put things back because they can't afford more than the basics. 4 nice-sized apples can easily set you back $12. I'm sorry about that. But, you know, if you shop around, you can find what you want for a reasonable amount of money. But you have to do the research. You have to look. In a moment, something you might not know. Hey, I want to tell you about Coin. That is spelled COIGN.com. It's America's only conservative credit card. Every time you use your credit card these days, you could be helping big banks give billions to liberal organizations like La Raza, BLM, the Clinton Foundation, and others. But now you can fight back. Coin offers unlimited cash-back rewards, world-class theft and fraud protection, and the ability to align your dollars with your values. Coin gives a portion of every dollar they earn to conservative charities that Coin card holders vote on. So learn more and apply for a Coin credit card at coin.com/O'Reilly. That's COIGN.com/O'Reilly. Please go to coin.com/disclosures for more information.
What's for dinner? Burgers?
After last week, no thanks.
Avoiding foods due to fear of diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools? It may not be just stomach issues. It could be EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. EPI can cause uncomfortable symptoms because it's a condition where the pancreas doesn't release enough digestive enzymes to break down food. But EPI can be managed. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor about your symptoms. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? A man age 50 non-tobacco user can obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $110 per month. Level rate for 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rate for 20 years. If you're a smoker, there are great rates available for you as well. Call Term Busters for a quote. 1-800-908-7636. You're probably paying more than you should. Call 1-800-908-7636. Remember, call Term Busters. 1-800-908-7636. Sample rate for preferred non-tobacco rate class. Exam required to qualify.
Now the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. 66 years ago today, one of America's most beloved sitcoms debuted on CBS. For the next 6 years, millions tuned in each week to see Ward, June, Wally, and the Beav. Here is the story of Leave It to Beaver. The show is built around the Cleaver family and their life in the fictional suburban town of Mayfield. The pilot aired October 4th, 1957, but few Americans watched. CBS dropped the Beaver show after one season. ABC, though, picked it up, where it ran for another 5 years. Leave It to Beaver is considered the quintessential 1950s sitcom, featuring a nuclear family struggling with issues like bullying, bad grades, and childhood angst. The parents even slept in separate twin beds. Today, the show is ranked as one of the most influential television series of all time. Said Leave It to Beaver actor Jerry Mathers, quote, "I think the main thing that made us a classic is that the episodes were all from real life. I think it's one of the few really truthful, honest shows that represents the late 1950s and early 60s, and it also represents everything that's good about the American family," unquote. And here's something else you might not know. The debut episode of Leave It to Beaver was supposed to appear late in the season, but CBS refused to air the pilot because it contained a scene with a toilet. At that time, showing the inside of bathrooms was considered taboo. The plot featured Beaver and Wally keeping a pet alligator in the bowl. To compromise, the crew reshot the scene to only show the tank. Hollywood censors finally approved the episode. It was the first time Americans had ever seen a WC water closet on television. Some Leave It to Beaver trivia. Back after this. If you or your business is behind in filing your tax returns, or if you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes to the IRS, listen carefully. The Biden administration just unveiled an $80 billion plan to modernize the IRS and reduce the unpaid tax debt. Are you tired of the IRS letters, levies, liens, or wage garnishments? You don't have to face the IRS alone. Hire Anthem Tax Services today. They can help you settle your delinquent tax problems and all collections, and may even be able to reduce your back taxes significantly. If they can't reduce your payments or put you in a better position, Anthem Tax Services will refund your money 100%. The information is free. The help is real. Please call Anthem Tax Services, 800-810-9193. 800-810-9193. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
KL2I HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Jason Weicker. More unrest today out on the labor front. Some 75,000 Kaiser Permanente workers have walked off the job in numerous states, kicking off a major healthcare worker strike. At least 20 people, most of them civilians, have been killed in Sudan, many others wounded following heavy artillery strikes that hit a health center.
Some of the heaviest fighting in Sudan has been taking place in Bari, north of the capital Khartoum. Volunteers from neighborhood committees are blaming the Rapid Support Forces for an attack on a health center. They've condemned the paramilitary group for targeting residential areas. During the battle for control of Khartoum, both sides are killing civilians. Around 70 died in just 2 attacks in Khartoum last month. The RSF has forced families out of their homes, which they then take over.
BBC correspondent Will Ross reporting also at townhall.com. Former Vice President Mike Pence today criticizing his former boss, President Donald Trump, for calling retired General Mark Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a traitor. Pence also reacted to the news that House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was being ousted. Police continue their probe into yesterday's shooting at Morgan State University in Baltimore. 5 people shot and wounded. Mayor Brandon Scott.
My anger is with the people that pulled that trigger, and we're going to work alongside Morgan State and everyone else to track down these people and hold them accountable.
Nearby, at least 27 people have been injured when a University of Maryland bus crashed early today, injuring at least 27 people, none of them severely. Police say the video from news outlets show a commuter-style bus crashing head-on into a pole. More on these stories at townhall.com.
My name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. You can protect your hard-earned retirement assets with a tax-free loophole that allows you to convert your retirement into physical gold and silver. Advantage Gold is the nation's highest-rated gold company. They have the best process, pricing, and service. If you want to get your free gold and silver investment kit, please contact Advantage Gold right now. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
You can host the best backyard barbecue. You find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A few sprinkles or light showers will move through. I do expect some dry time this evening. Really, the bulk of our steadier rain here in St. Louis is going to come overnight and Thursday morning until about midday Thursday. So a low of 66 with rain and some thunder in the morning. Could be quite a soaker in the morning with 1/4 of an inch to maybe up to an inch in some spots before it tapers off in the early afternoon. Cool day, 73 for the high. Thursdays will be dry in the afternoon and evening, but even cooler for Friday, a high of 68, a windy day, partly to mostly sunny. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here to tell you about 2 fantastic local businesses right here in the St. Louis Metro. Espino's Mexican Grill, Hippo's Cannabis Dispensary, located very conveniently right next to door to each other at 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road. Tuesdays are fantastic days to visit Espino's and Hippo's, although any day is honestly a good day to visit any of these great businesses. But if you go there on any Tuesday, you spend $50 or more at Hippo's, you'll get a 2-taco ticket from Espino's for Espino's with a valid Hippo's lunch ticket. So shop Hippo's on Tuesdays, spend $50 or more, you get tacos from Espino's. How fantastic is that? Hippo's has very experienced personal bartenders to walk you through the process in case you've never been into a location like Hippo's. You might see co-owners Brett Hull, Kelly Chase, or Barrett Jackman while you're there. Espino's Mexican Grill. Ooh, my mouth's watering thinking about that fantastic, authentic Mexican fare menu they've got for nearly 2 decades now. Coldest drinks around, and that outdoor margarita patio. It's just a fantastic place indeed. Hippo's and Espino's located right next door to each other on the internet. Espino's MexicanBarGrill.com, Hippo'sCannabis.com If it's a bud tender or a bartender, they've got it all at 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road. Espinos for the best fresh alternative to everyday ordinary Mexican food, and Hippos for the bud.
Mystic Fix is sponsored by Kama Flight, redefining the dance between the masculine and feminine. Kama Flight is a somatic movement practice merging yoga, meditation, and massage. Workshops in 2023 are at the Chosen Retreat Center in Sebastian, Florida. For more, visit Kama Flight on Instagram at KAMAFLIGHT.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I certainly hope so. I don't think we ought to leave town until we figure that out. But again, these things happen. This country's been through a lot worse. In 1804, we had a Treasury Secretary and Vice President dueling. Okay, we're going to get through this, and we're going to make sure that our country moves forward, secure the border, cut spending, hold the Biden administration accountable.
You're not calling those the good old days when we just say, all right, let's go out in the back and have a duel.
And welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. It's Wednesday, October 4th. 2023, and the big story, of course, still is Kevin McCarthy is now the former Speaker of the House. He was ousted yesterday in a historic vote. Never happened before that a speaker has been voted out. We'll talk about that and get into that a little bit more as the show progresses. My partner, Tim Jones, Speaker Tim Jones, is in Washington, D.C. still in the swamp. ALEC is having their big gala tonight. And so we like to say, Joy, that Tim is on assignment in Washington, D.C. for us, gathering us some more great guests.
Yeah, and when we do our live remote tomorrow from Johnny's, hopefully he has some sneaky stories about D.C. I guess he was watching the thing live from the rafters yesterday.
He was. I think Congressman Eric Burleson from the Springfield area, who's a freshman. Tim knows him from doing his former show there in the morning, gave him some special tickets where he could watch from the visitors gallery, and so he was able to get a bird's eye view literally of history. And as I said, Joey, we will talk about that more throughout the show, but I don't want to forget we've got a big lineup today, a lot of guests. At 4:24, we'll speak with Scott Shepard. He's director of the National Center's Free Enterprise Project. We'll talk to him about J.P. Morgan and Bank of America choosing politics over fiduciary duties. We've seen that many times with companies. At 4:45, Chris's Corner, we'll talk about the Dallas mayor who has switched parties, and it'll be surprising if you have not heard this story, who he is, what he is. We'll talk about that at 4:45 on Chris's Corner. At 5:07, Katie hates this nickname, but Ken Cuccinelli, the Cooch, will be on the show. He's the founder of the Never Back Down PAC, chairman. He's also a chairman of an election integrity group. So we'll talk to Ken Cuccinelli, about the 2024 campaign, Ron DeSantis, how he performed in the debates, and we'll also talk about the border and election integrity issues. And then at 5:24, Joy, we've got Emma Reckenberg. This will be her second time on the show. She is the co-host of National Report on Newsmax. Emma is a St. Louis native, and she has a connection to the show. Tim Jones is, I think, her parents are Tim Jones's daughter's godparents. I think that I got that correct.
I followed that.
But we will clarify that with Emma when we have her on at 5:24. So big show today. We're going to cover it all. But the big story today, of course, is Kevin McCarthy being ousted as chairman of the Speaker of the House. 6, 7, 8 people total were able to side with 200 Democrats and threw Kevin McCarthy out. A lot of conservatives, a lot of folks who listen to this radio are pleased that Kevin McCarthy has been ousted. There are others within the Republican Senate and within the Republican Congress and old school Republicans who are not too happy with Matt Gaetz's actions. And let's hear, Joey, from number one, what Newt Gingrich thinks about Matt Gaetz.
Well, first, I think it's a very sad day because I think Kevin McCarthy is one of the most talented leaders I've ever worked with. I think that he accomplished an amazing amount for having a small majority and having to take on both the Senate and the White House. And I think this is really a tragic outcome. This was a leader who both gained seats in 2020, gained seats in 2022, increased the number of women members, increased the number of veterans, increased the number of minority members, and he had a vision for a better future. And let's be clear here, Sean. If the University of Georgia Bulldogs, who are the #1 team in the country right now, if you started a game and 4 of the members of the offensive squad decided they were actually on the Alabama side and began tackling your own people, you probably get them off the field.
Tough words from Newt Gingrich there. And, of course, Newt's going to be a little partial. He is a former Speaker of the House. He could understand the tough position that Kevin McCarthy was in, especially having that slim majority and where a few members could throw a monkey wrench in everything that you wanted to do and eventually throw you out. And that is what we saw happen. People are also, as I said, are angry at Matt Gaetz. You heard there from Newt Gingrich. Also, people are talking about expelling him from the House of Representatives. Matt Gaetz had this to say. Cut 4, Joey.
Expelled. Are you afraid of getting expelled?
I'm afraid of $33 trillion in debt crushing the working people in my district. I'm afraid of the dollar losing its status as the global reserve currency. If they want to expel me, let me know when they have the vote.
Wow, and tough talk there from Matt Gaetz. As we have said on this show previously, there are rumors that he will be running for governor of Florida in 2026. There are not any rumors that he has been fundraising heavily on his actions to remove Kevin McCarthy. And so a lot of people are very suspect of his motives. I have to say, honestly, I am one. I think he does care about the deficits and the unrealistic, out-of-control spending that this country is facing, bankrupting our country, putting a tremendous debt on our children, our grandchildren. I get that, too. But I'm also a political animal for the past 20-plus years, and there is a lot of personal things that are involved in politics, and I don't think you have to be too much of a political animal to see that the animosity between Matt Gaetz and some of the other members of the conservative caucus, it's not so much policy, it's more an issue of personality, and I think we saw that. Kevin McCarthy, of course, he is ousted from the speaker seat, and so he feels free now to speak out and say his piece. And so he had a press conference yesterday and said some things. This is what he had to say about the conservative House rebels. He said the so-called conservative House rebels, they don't get to say they're conservative because they're angry and they're chaotic. He also was angry. He also said, I'm a free agent now. When he asked would he support primary challenges against some of the people that voted him out, he left that door open that he just may do that. He's also very angry that the Democrats did not say them. He said he claimed that he had a promise by Nancy Pelosi to back him up if conservatives trying to oust him. He said that obviously she did not stand up for him. I don't know if that was something that I would necessarily disclose at this time, that you were looking for Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats to save you, especially how Nancy Pelosi is felt by those that listen to this radio station. But that's how desperate Kevin was to cling to power. And, I said this at the very beginning when we had the 15 rounds of voting to elect him Speaker, that he made so many concessions to the House Conservative Caucus that he was going to be ineffective and was going to serve at their pleasure. And the first time that a tough vote came, where they backed him in a corner, really, they had a deal to cut spending, but because of the animosity that they had against Kevin McCarthy, they would not allow that measure to come to the floor and voted against it. So, it's not that I'm partial to Kevin McCarthy. It's just the fact of the matter is that either he made a deal with Democrats or he shuts down the government or be responsible for it. And he was just in a no-win situation either way. And he fell on the sword to keep the government open, but it cost him his speakership. One of the reasons why the Democrats are saying they did not try to save Kevin McCarthy is they didn't trust him. They had a deal that was worked out with the president and everyone where they had spending caps that were put in place. Kevin McCarthy was pressured by the House Conservative Caucus, said that he wasn't going to no longer agree to those spending caps any longer to try to please his caucus. It didn't work, obviously. And so the Democrats feel biffed and said, why should we save him? Because he has not kept his word. And that's also something that Matt Gaetz said as well, that Kevin McCarthy went back on many of his promises that he made. One of those promises was that any measure that came for a vote, members would have 72 hours to be able to at least read the language in the bill. That didn't happen with this last continuing resolution. They were given a big bill, thick bill, and had 24 hours or less, I think, to vote on it. So they didn't have much time to look at it. And as I said, the Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, he sent out a Dear Colleague leader during this vote, basically whipping Democrats against McCarthy. They said that he reneged on the debt ceiling deal, as I mentioned earlier. He blew up the NDAA bill that dealt with defense spending. They are really incensed that he opened an impeachment inquiry against President Biden, and they're miffed, according to sources here, that he cut side deals with conservatives that, quote unquote, made the House ungovernable. So Kevin McCarthy was in a tough position. It was his dream job. He had always wanted to be Speaker of the House. When you go through 15 rounds and basically make the concessions that he made to have the job, I think that demonstrates that he deserved a lot of credit. When people thought he was dead and there was not a deal to be made, he was able to make the deals. But in this last instance, there were no more deals to make, and it cost him his speakership. He has said that he will not run again for the Speaker of the House. He said he's done. He's going to sit and grab some peanuts and popcorn and watch the circus. The names that are surfacing are Scalise from Louisiana. He was the gentleman that was involved with the shooting at the practice, congressional baseball game practice. It also disclosed a couple of months ago that he has blood cancer. Reports are that he has been reaching out, making calls to other lawmakers, trying to gather support. He had a meeting today with 20 members of the Texas delegation, which is a big chunk of the caucus. He's trying to get their support. There's also reports that Jim Jordan from Ohio, who was in the McCarthy's leadership, he has thrown his hat in the ring. He will just try to decide as well. And then there's a dark horse candidate from Oklahoma. Forgot the gentleman's name, but he is a self-made man who made his money with McDonald's franchises. So he may appeal to the more moderate business wing of the caucus and may give their votes. I think what the House Conservative Caucus, and they have a victory. They got a scalp. Mike Gates got a scalp. Kevin McCarthy is gone. Some of the tactics that they use on simple votes that usually came up with no problem, they blocked those votes onto the floor, embarrassed McCarthy. I think they have to be wary that if they do get the speaker that they want, someone that is conservative, that there are 200 Republicans that in the caucus that supported McCarthy, and they could utilize the same tactics that they used of delay everything, threatening to side with the Democrats to stop things. So this could get very potentially ugly within the Republican House caucus. They need to have a retreat somewhere and really try to hug it out. The temporary speaker has a candidate conference scheduled for next Tuesday. He has tentatively said there will be a vote next Wednesday for a potential new speaker, but what I am reading is that is probably not going to happen, not be that soon. So the House does not have a leader. That also means that the business before the House cannot progress. The investigations can still go on, but with a temporary speaker, they can't bring up any new business. So the House right now is paralyzed, and that is bad because in about 40 days or less, the government could potentially shut down again. And while there is not a speaker and no House business is done on that regard, that is taking away precious days for negotiation before another potential showdown. So if you are a political nerd, and you probably are if you're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, you are in Nirvana. We are literally witnessing history as we did yesterday with the ouster of Kevin McCarthy from the speakership of the House. 424 coming up. Scott Shepard, director of the National Center's Free Enterprise Project. We'll talk to him about banks choosing politics over their fiduciary duties. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A few sprinkles or light showers will move through. I do expect some dry time this evening. Really, the bulk of our steadier rain here in St. Louis is going to come overnight and Thursday morning until about midday Thursday. So a low of 66 with rain and some thunder in the morning. Could be quite a soaker in the morning with a quarter of an inch to maybe up to an inch in some spots before it tapers off in the early afternoon. Cool day, 73 for the high. Thursdays will be dry in the afternoon and evening, but even cooler for Friday, a high of 68, a windy day, partly to mostly sunny. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Get charged up on the truth. Power Punch with Larry Behrens.
Gas prices are crashing higher once again, and the Biden administration is employing a new tactic to try to make us believe they're not responsible. We'll help you see through it. And when you go to rent that car, are you choosing all those fancy EVs? No, you're not, and you're not alone. We'll talk about it this week.
Power Punch with Larry Behrens, Saturday afternoons at 4 on News Talk STL.
Get more Power Punch at powertofuture.com. We're here with our great friends, Kathy and Rob Connor from Connor Roofing. One thing I love about your company, Kathy, is customer service.
We pride ourselves on making sure our customers are happy, and you can check out our Google reviews. We're very proud of that as well. And if you're not happy, we will do what it takes to fix the problem.
Well, that's just it. You set expectations, and we like to really educate our customers, and it gets done the way we said we were going to do it.
Call Connor Roofing, 314-375-7475, or ConnorRoofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
Getting a new floor for your home can be intimidating and a little scary. But that's not the case when you go to Michael's Flooring Outlet. Katie here, and my mom and dad used Michael's, and they had a great experience. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 30 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Shop in-store at one of their 3 locations in Creve Coeur, Dardine Prairie, or St. Peters. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
St. Louis City, get ready to make history. Your City, Your Voice Town Hall is here, and it's more than you've ever seen before. Imagine this, Attorney General Andrew Bailey and Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft in person, side by side, hearing your concerns, taking on your burning questions. It's October 12th. Rally your neighbors, come and ask the questions that keep you awake at night. Visit stlouisrepublicans.com for details.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
There are some new pictures of Commander Biden biting a staffer again. How many times has that dog bitten the Bidens?
I would refer you to the Secret Service and also the First Lady's office.
Okay. It's the 12th known incident of this dog biting a White House staffer. A lot of times when that happens, there's a lawsuit. Isn't the president worried about getting sued?
I would refer you to the Secret Service or the First Lady's office.
427 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And Joy, the reason why I had you play that clip, because our next guest reminds me of Commander, the way that he is a pit bull when it comes to keeping these companies accountable. Our next guest is Scott Shepard, director of the National Center's Free Enterprise Project. And Scott, we're going to talk to you about how JP and Bank of America have chosen politics over fiduciary duties. But give a comment first on Commander there. You have an opinion on Commander biting people continually?
Well, I'll tell you, my real concern when you started to say that I remind you of Commander, I thought you were going to say I remind you of Kamala, and that was going to ruin my month.
No.
I appreciate that swerve.
Yeah, no problem. So tell us about this J.P. Morgan, Bank of America. They've chosen politics over fiduciary duties. I know Senator Ted Cruz has something to do with this as well, correct?
Yeah, Senator Cruz did the yeoman work to discover, and this is hardly the first time with these banks, but the banks had leaned on the Intuit company that makes QuickBooks to forbid the use of their services by the gun industry. Now, this is not something that banks under law can do. Clients of banks are better clients, if they have more clients of their own. There's no possible business justification for a too-big-to-fail bank in particular jumping in to forbid its clients to have as many customers as possible. And so this is another iteration in politics, and like every single one that's come up, it's Jamie Dimon and Brian Moynihan at Bank of America and those banks and the other too-big-to-fail banks jumping in on the side of far left politics.
Scott, we had this same thing happen with one of our former hosts here on the station a couple of years ago when we first started. He has an annual event, a Freedom Dinner event that he has where, 300-400 people show up to this thing. Donald Trump Jr. was the guest host that night. And the company that handled the processing for the payments for the event refused to handle his event and dropped him because Donald Trump Jr. Was the guest host. Threw everything in a loop. They had to cancel the program, had to do it a few months later, had to give everyone their money back. I mean, this happened to us. We experienced it personally here.
Yeah, I remember that event. And, there was Mike Lindell just a few weeks ago by Amex. It never stops. You always know it's going to be conservatives and Republicans and the religious. And you would think, now, I say that in the light of the catastrophe and confusion in the House of Representatives, but you would think that Republicans in D.C. would be looking at the fact that these too big to fail banks are essentially public common carriers. They're backstopped by the government. They're backstopped by taxpayers. What ought to happen is that the CEOs of those companies start getting paid like water municipal district leaders, about, I don't know, 1 billionth of what they're paid right now, and regulated so that they have to. It's called common carriage. They have to accept all comers. They can't discriminate. And that's the only fix for the way the banks are trying to undermine and squeeze off conservative values.
Scott, what has been these banks' response to this clear discrimination? How do they justify it?
Well, they don't really. If they try to justify it, they do it by lies. When Chase debanked Ambassador Brownback's organization last fall, I don't remember each of them, but it came up with 4 or 5 different sets of lies before finally ending up on one that Fed and the Treasury and another half dozen federal organizations has said is not how to interpret that regulation. So what you get is lots of lies and then really confusing lies because everybody thinks, oh, these are bank regulations. I refuse to get involved. But eventually that has to come out in the wash because, as with this, we see again and again that companies are making decisions that can't possibly be justified on business grounds. And you do that enough. And unless you're being paid not to understand what's going on, you finally understand what's going on.
Scott, we had Robert Cahaley, the pollster for the Trafalgar Group, on a few times about 6 months ago, and he told us about a poll that he did where the companies were going to get out of politics and were going to do what they used to do, just sell products, and that the majority of the American people were in favor of that. How come we're not seeing any decrease in this DEI type of behavior?
Well, I think we are seeing some withdrawal from DEI, and I think we're seeing some withdrawal from the uber wokeness in the wake of the losses at Disney and at Target and at Bud Light and at other places. But you've got this administration that supports, the DEI goals are the exact same as the whole of government goals of the Biden administration. And you've got the lefties, the coastal lefties who have captured the top of these corporations, and more importantly, the top of the big investment houses, BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard. And that's where the pressure's coming from. Not no one, but the vast majority of Americans don't want this. The law is contrary to this, but the people who corporate executives have to pay attention to right now.
Speaking with Scott Shepard, director of the National Center's Free Enterprise Project. Scott, why are executives at BlackRock and similar companies, why are they doing it? Is it because they strictly have a huge heart and they want to change society and they feel they have the money and the power and the resources to do that? Or is there some other sinister plan behind this?
Well, you got it almost right. It's not a huge heart. It's a huge ego. Larry Fink and the other idiots who go to Davos every winter want to be the rulers of the world, a new noble class at a global level, without having been elected or appointed to anything, and they get to decide social, political, and economic policy for the future. That's what this all boils down to, is a set of people, most of whom didn't found their own companies. They're just bureaucrats deciding that they figured out a way to live the amazing lifestyles that they do with other people's money while crushing the rest of us in the name of equity and decarbonization, because they'd quite like to have the world with many fewer of us in it, and with us not being able to fly around or get in their way.
You know, speaking of Disney, and you mentioned them earlier, they reported a couple of weeks ago that they're going to focus their business now on their core business of hospitality and cruise ships and those things, and a little less on of movies that have a certain bent that the majority of the public doesn't agree with. You wrote an editorial on National Center's website about Disney and Bob Iger. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when it comes down to it, Bob Iger is a one-man destruction machine. Disney has been for decades and for a century, it's been the biggest name in high-quality entertainment. Under Bob Iger's watch, they stopped hiring people who liked Disney's clients or who liked, what was it, Milton Disney? Walt Disney. Well, obviously, it was Walt Disney.
Milton Bradley you're thinking of.
That's right. That's exactly right. So they didn't like, or maybe Milton Hershey. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I bet it was that. But, you know, there are goals that worked and made Disney a fantastically fabulous country. They threw that all away to pick niche left-wing goals and to do it in ways that when you have identified your favorite people, they have to be perfect. They can't have any flaws. But the thing is, if you've got supposed heroes who are perfect, this is why it's hard to write for Superman. If you've got somebody perfect, then you can't get a story arc out of them because they can't learn, they can't grow, they can't have flaws that they overcome. And so you've just got this perfect left-wing cardboard character who just sermonizes throughout these movies, and nobody wants to see that.
Scott, I'm sure you're probably aware of this story, but I think it's just too rich because the media, they're the ones that are always preaching to us and about fairness and diversity and all that. But the giant media company Gannett is being sued for allegedly discriminating against white employees in order to achieve diversity goals. We're starting to see more and more suits like that, or at least I have.
Yeah, I think that's the beginning of a very, very wide wedge. Bloomberg thought this was great, but Bloomberg came out with a report last week saying that in hiring overall in the last 3 years by American corporations, 6% of the hirees were white. 6%, when 70% of the country is white. And this is at a time when these companies have been bragging about installing racially and sexually discriminatory programs. Well, that's all the lawsuits there are. You've got your 90% of the way to a prima facie case at most of the corporations in America. And so, you know, I don't understand why companies aren't sprinting away from DEI. Again, that's probably partly Larry Fink's and the government's pressure, but those suits are going to be massive. People are going to lose their jobs. Directors are going to lose their jobs. And it sounds as though Ibram Kendi has already started to lose his job. So good things are around the corner.
Just think if the brand new senator from California was a corporate employee, she'd be good grounds for a lawsuit for diversity hiring. She's African-American, she's female, she's lesbian, she doesn't live in the state that she's going to represent, and she represents a very far left-wing organization. That seems to fit a bunch of quota goals to me. I know you don't do politics, but I'm just...
I mean, given Gavin Newsom's principles and morals and values, of course he made that that decision because he doesn't care about the people of California. He cares about virtue signaling, the new discrimination, and the power of Washington. So he got a trifecta.
We're speaking with Scott Shepard, director of the National Center's Free Enterprise Project. Scott, what is the Free Enterprise Project up to? Are you bothering board of directors, going to shareholder meetings? What's your latest project?
Well, we're in the off season, so we haven't fired up for the 2024 shareholder season quite yet. We're just getting started with that. But we've been bothering corporations in the off season, so insofar as to sue a number of them, and we expect there'll be more of those for their illegal discrimination, for their giving all the money there is to these civil rights organizations that are interested only in dividing the country at this point and in lying about legislation. And so we think we're making strides. We think this is going to be a great shareholder season, and we look forward to get back on the field.
That's why I call you Commander, because of those lawsuits there where you're just in their mix. You know, I am a colleague with you at the National Center for Public Policy Research. I'm with Project 21. You are with director of the Free Enterprise Project. Project 21 started after the Rodney King riots as a platform to give African-American conservatives a voice. What was the start or the origins of the Free Enterprise Project at the National Center for Public Policy Research?
Well, I think that largely goes back to my predecessor, the famed and terrific Justin Danoff, who's moved on to Strive Asset Management. He and a couple other people at that time recognized that the way to go with all of this, or where it was going, and that we needed to fight back against the left. And so he was a wedge of one for a very long time, but happily, we have allies at the National Center, and we have allies all throughout the country, and I think we're going to win.
Scott, thank you so much for your time, sir. You can be reached on Twitter at FreeEnt Project and at the freeenterpriseproject.org. We always enjoy having you on, and continue your great work, sir.
Thank you so much. And next time when we talk, I won't run up the steps right before I pick up the phone.
You know what? I couldn't even tell. You must have the heart rate of a 30-year-old or 20-year-old, which is like 45 or something.
Well, I appreciate that thought. I don't think the cardiologist would agree, but I'm glad you have my back, brother.
I got you, man. So have a great day.
All right, you too.
And at 4:45, Chris's Corner, Joy, we're going to talk about the mayor of Dallas who has switched parties, and we'll talk about the flack that you would expect him to receive and the courage that it took to do that, and we'll see what type of impact it may have on the national race or in Texas politics. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A few sprinkles or light showers will move through. I do expect some dry time this evening. And really, the bulk of our steadier rain here in St. Louis is going to come overnight and Thursday morning until about midday Thursday. So a low of 66 with rain and some thunder in the morning. Could be quite a soaker in the morning with a quarter of an inch to maybe up to an inch in some spots before it tapers off in the early afternoon. Cool day, 73 for the high. Thursdays will be dry in the afternoon and evening, but even cooler for Friday, a high of 68, a windy day, partly to mostly sunny. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
So what's going on?
Right here.
To me, this looks like the run-up to World War II.
News Talk STL.
They're playing with fire. Democrats are destroying the country.
News, analysis, opinion.
You just heard Scott Shepard, director of the National Centers for Enterprise Project, talk about J.P. Morgan and Bank of America, who aren't looking out for your best interests. Well, you don't have to worry about that with the locally owned community bank, Royal Banks. They've been providing unparalleled service to St. Louis residents since 1964. Royal Banks of Missouri, they pride themselves on having the highest financial ratings in St. Louis for stability and strength. Royal has 17 convenient banking locations throughout St. Louis, including locations in Northeast Missouri and Hannibal, across the river in Jerseyville and Granite City, and 2 locations in St. Charles. They also have 200 ATMs across the Midwest, so you can easily access your accounts no matter where you are. Royal Banks offers a full range of financial services to meet all your personal and business needs, whether you need auto loans, home mortgages, online and mobile banking, or wealth management services. They've got you covered. Visit Royal online at royalbanksmo.com to learn more about their services and to find a location near you. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank that is in your community.
Hi, Sean Long for STL Fenceworks. STL Fenceworks is proud and excited to install American-made aluminum and vinyl fence products, as well as American-made decking. For instance, STL Fenceworks has teamed up with Jareth Manufacturing. Jareth invented the aluminum fence industry over 50 years ago. The Jareth product is wholly sourced and manufactured in the U.S., and STL Fenceworks is the 3rd largest Jareth customer in the world. STL Fenceworks is vinyl fencing also, and not just white. We partner with National Vinyl Products to provide you with tan, clay, gray, and variegated wood grain vinyl fence products too, all made in the U.S. Not to be forgotten, STL Fenceworks is maintenance-free decking. STL Fenceworks is the #1 distributor of Wolf Cellular PVC in the Midwest, proudly manufactured in the U.S. and voted #1 maintenance-free decking product in the United States. Let STL Fenceworks make your outdoor space magical. Visit stlfenceworks.com today and learn how we can make your backyard dreams into a reality. At STL Fenceworks, your satisfaction is our passion.
Do you live in West St. Louis County? Then you can get West News Magazine delivered free to your home just by asking for it. West News Magazine is the only print source for the political, school, business, and sports news happening in your hometown. Simply visit westnewsmagazine.com/subscribe or pick up a free copy at all area Deerbergs and Schnuck stores. West News Magazine. Anybody who wants it gets it. Anybody who gets it wants it. Subscribe for free today. Simply visit westnewsmagazine.com/subscribe.
We know you have lawns to mow, work sites to build, fields to manage, and jobs to finish. With over 100 years of experience, Seidenstricker Nobe will be with you every step of the way. Our customers are the center of everything we do. Find affordable pricing, low monthly payments, and easy financing options on all our John Deere equipment. With 27 locations to serve you, Seidenstricker Nobe Partners is your source for everything John Deere. snpartners.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
So the Francis Howell School District, are they trying to push in any CRT or any kind of stuff? Are they using that new Zella? We'll talk to Francis Howell School Board member Jane Pushkar at 10:41 on Thursday.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stiefel. Contact your Stiefel financial advisor at stiefel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
She's simply awesome.
448 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. I want to tell you to hold on and keep listening. At 5:07, we'll have Ken Cuccinelli, founder of the Never Back Down PAC. That is, it supports Ron DeSantis for president. He also runs an election integrity group called ETI. And at 5:24, we'll have Emma Reckenberg, co-host of National Report on Newsmax. She is also a St. Louis native. We'll speak with her about all of the big issues of the day. Of course, Kevin McCarthy, the presidential race, the border, the budget, a lot of things to talk with Emma Reckenberg about. We've talked many times about how President Joe Biden is doing poorly in the polls. It's most startling to see how badly he's doing among African Americans, which are usually the most resilient and stalwart constituency of the Democratic Party. his favorability among blacks, African Americans is going down, and it is creating some earthquakes within the political field. And we'll talk about that next on Chris's Corner.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
You know, traditionally, a Democratic president can expect 90 to 93% of the African American vote throughout the presidency. It may dip down to low 8 or high 80s, but never much more than that. And so we've talked about all the history that we have seen here lately with 4 indictments against President Trump, what's happening with Kevin McCarthy being ousted. Well, this is historic to see a president have such a low approval rating among African Americans. In some polls, we've seen the polling as low as 70%. There are many reasons for the apathy within the African American community. I think the thing to look at the most is that the Democratic Party, the president, this administration in general, is not focusing on needs that African Americans feel should be addressed. One of the things, of course, that they feel needs to be addressed is the voting rights. They want a bill passed. They want student loans to be canceled. And, of course, President Biden is handcuffed on a lot of those issues. He can't cancel student loans unless Congress agrees to it. But he made that promise, and that's what happens when you make promises to constituent groups. They expect you to deliver, and when you don't, your support will wane. Well, there was a big earthquake, and I was actually just flying out of Dallas, flying for Houston when it was announced that the Dallas mayor, Eric Johnson, was switching party affiliations from Democrat to Republican. Some of the concerns that he cited for leaving was their policies have, quote, exacerbated crime and homelessness. I'm sure Dallas, like St. Louis, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and other big cities that are run by Democrats who have George Soros prosecutors who are soft on crime, they've seen the criminals overrun the criminal justice system and basically run the city. We've seen that here in St. Louis. You know, criminals may not have chosen an occupation that is legal, but they're not stupid, and they, may not watch the news or listen to talk radio, but they hear and they know that when politicians are talking about defunding the police, or politicians tell how short they are of officers on the streets, when you see reports of how long it takes for a police officer or a ambulance to respond to a call, that gets out among the criminal element, and they know that they could pretty much commit a crime and the police may not show up. We remember the sad story that happened a few months ago during a storm here in St. Louis when a woman was trapped in her car when a tree fell on top of it, and she was calling over and over to 911 to try to get help. And the ambulance service never did come, and unfortunately, the woman succumbed to her injuries. These were senseless deaths. That's a death that could have and should have been prevented. And it's Democratic-run cities where you see those types of problems. You look at the backlash. An African-American mayor in Dallas switching parties, saying that his former party's not doing the job. You see New York City Mayor Eric Adams with his city being overrun with illegal migrants, how he's saying that he's not getting any help at all from the Biden administration, how they need more resources to combat this surge of migrants in New York City. He has said, as I just said, if there is nothing done about this, you can say that New York will be destroyed. He said that with a straight face, and I think he obviously believes that. But he won't go completely to the mat on what he should say. He should talk about we should close down the border. We need troops down at the border. We need more border agents at the border to stop the surge. And one thing that was really disappointing in Mayor Eric Adams, because he has been quite critical of the President of the United States. But he said at a conference after criticizing President Biden that he did give Biden a great job on other issues like crime and the environment, which sounds kind of crazy to give him a great job for crime when crime has spiked, and a lot of that crime has spiked because of the illegal immigration that's coming in our country. A lot of that crime has spiked, and a lot of deaths have occurred because our southern border is wide open, and fentanyl comes into this country, and it's killed 70,000 of our fellow citizens a year. And to put that into perspective, the Vietnam War, the 10 or 15 years that war occurred, we lost 58,000 people. With the fentanyl drug situation, we're losing 70,000 people a day. And as we've said many, many times with this illegal migration too, it's run, of course, by the drug cartels. And the drug cartels, it is reported, are making more money smuggling in illegal migrants into the country than they are selling cocaine or marijuana or any other illegal substance. This is a very, very lucrative trade. A lot of people are dying in the desert. They're drowning in the Rio Grande. They're dying in the desert. Kids are being trafficked. Women are being raped. And you can lay all of this at the feet of the Biden administration, because they signaled, along with other Democrats on the debate stage in 2020, that they wouldn't do anything to stop the illegal flow of immigrants, and that we should have an open border because we are America. And the Statue of Liberty has an inscription saying that we open our shores to the tired, the poor, and the hungry. And I think most Americans believe that, but what we've said over and over and over, that immigration to this country should be legal, not illegal. And I assume that when the music runs out, I run out. That is Chris's Corner. I was kind of wordy today, wasn't I, Joe? Usually I don't run the music out.
You know what? Let's just play it for another 6 minutes. It's good. It's a good song.
It is a good song. But you know what I can do in the interim here is talk about who we've got coming up at 5:07. Ken Cuccinelli, founder of the Never Back Down PAC. He is a former Virginia Attorney General, of course. And we've had Ken Cuccinelli on this show many times, and he's been on the station many times. Ken Cuccinelli and Vic Porcelli have that Italian thing going there. And I think Ken was on the show yesterday or earlier this week. And at 5:24, we will speak with Emma Reckenberg. She's the co-host of National Report on Newsmax. And we'll talk to Emma about the news of the day, and maybe talk to her a little bit about her St. Louis roots and her connection to my co-host, Speaker Tim Jones. So we still have a big show, and we will continue with that show next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com.
Investment advisory and financial planning services offered through Simplicity Wealth, LLC, SEC registered investment advisor. Insurance, consulting, and education services offered through Serenity Wealth Management.
Are you or someone you know providing or managing care for a loved one today? Did you know there could be more cost-efficient solutions for funding long-term care, even those currently living in a skilled care facility today? Financial strategist and long-term care specialist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management can show you tax-efficient strategies available to help your family manage care concerns. Whether planning for the future or managing care for a loved one today, solutions exist to provide the financial peace of mind you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book, A CPA's Guide to Tax-Free Strategies for Long-Term Care. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Request your free copy of Chris's book by visiting SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
School choice is an idea whose time has come. It's flourishing in many states, just not in Missouri.
Take charter schools, a great alternative for parents whose kids may be trapped in a failing school district. But charter schools are currently only available to families in just 3 of 520 school districts: Kansas City, the city of St. Louis, and Normandy. Open enrollment allows students to enroll in a district other than the one in which they live. It's important because rural schools may not offer all the advanced classes larger districts do. Open enrollment does exist in Missouri, but participation is highly restricted. And the Empowerment Scholarship Account, or ESA program, needs to be expanded so many more parents of students with disabilities and low-income students can access it. Charter schools, open enrollment, ESAs. If they're good for some children, they should be good for all children. Check out our 2023 blueprint, Moving Missouri Forward, at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Jason Walker. Saudi Arabia says it will maintain a production cut of 1 million barrels of oil per day through the end of the year.
The announcement could further prop up oil prices, which are hovering at around $90 a barrel. Production cuts first announced by Saudi Arabia and Russia in July have driven up prices at the pump, enriched Moscow's war chest, and complicated global efforts to bring down inflation. The Saudi Energy Ministry says the kingdom will continue to produce 9 million barrels per day in November and December.
That is correspondent Jeremy House reporting. White House hoping for a quick election of a new Speaker of the House. White House correspondent Greg Clugston.
Without addressing the messy internal politics facing House Republicans, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said President Biden hopes the House will quickly elect a speaker. Once that happens, she said, he looks forward to working together with them.
Also at townhall.com, it is a major job that's getting underway in Maui. Rich Thomason reports.
Federal authorities have started removing hazardous materials from the Maui wildfires, laying the groundwork to dispose of burned cars, buildings, and other debris. The hazardous waste, including oil, solvent, and batteries, being shipped to the West Coast, while the Army Corps of Engineers is working with local officials to develop a plan to dispose of an estimated 400,000 to 700,000 tons of debris on the island. Rich Thomason reporting.
More advancements with AI. Google today unveiling a next-generation Pixel smartphone lineup that will be infused with more and more artificial intelligence tools capable of writing captions about photos that can be altered by the technology as well. The step is to bring more of the technology into the mainstream. More on these stories at townhall.com.
We thank the pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
My name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. You can protect your hard-earned retirement assets with a tax-free loophole that allows you to convert your retirement into physical gold and silver. Advantage Gold is the nation's highest-rated gold company. They have the best process, pricing, and service. If you want to get your free gold and silver investment kit, please contact Advantage Gold right now. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A few sprinkles or light showers will move through. I do expect some dry time this evening. And really, the bulk of our steadier rain here in St. Louis is going to come overnight and Thursday morning until about midday Thursday. So a low of 66 with rain and some thunder in the morning. Could be quite a soaker in the morning with 1/4 of an inch to maybe up to an inch in some spots before it tapers off in the early afternoon. Cool day, 73 for the high. Thursdays will be dry in the afternoon and evening, but even cooler for Friday, a high of 68, a windy day, partly to mostly sunny. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Well, it's that time of year again. I'm looking forward to seeing the great folks of Professional Irrigation Systems. They're going to be out at our Jones home, I think next weekend, to do that final late season tune-up, kind of beginning to shut all the systems down. And I was just admiring, and I was thinking about them this weekend. I like to go out and do all the weed eating and the little trimming and the edging and the weed pulling and all that. I like to mess around in the yard throughout the weekend. Love being outside. And I was looking at our lawn going, man, another great lawn season for our lawn because of Professional Irrigation Systems. And the system that we had put in many years ago at our home, after I had lugged around hoses and sprinkler heads and had things break on me for over 10 years, we finally said enough is enough. Let's get Pro Irrigation in here. They did a residential irrigation install, custom designed for our property in one day. Even though we're at the end of the season, this is a perfect time to take advantage of all the specials that Pro Irrigation's got going on to prepare you for next season. Wouldn't it be lovely not to haul hoses and mess with all of that junk that you have to do when you try to hand water your lawn? It just isn't worth it. It comes with an app for your phone. It's really highly sophisticated, but so easy to use. And like I said, the customer service techs, they're always fantastic. We got this great package that we use throughout the year to make sure everything is up to snuff. If you've already got an irrigation system from Pro Irrigation, they also do lighting installs. They have fertilization packages, everything to make the exterior of your home look fantastic. So this fall, get on the ball and give Professional Irrigation a call, 636-692-4441, 24/7 at proirrigation.com, proirrigation.com.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com. This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
But here's the deal. Now that we have an opportunity to elect a new speaker, I'm going to force Washington to realize and remember that the American people support President Trump. He is winning the primary overwhelmingly. No one's even close to him. He's also beating Joe Biden in poll after poll, and he has a proven 4-year record as president of having the greatest policies in my lifetime. We want him back as president, so why not make him Speaker of the House, even if it's an interim speaker?
5:07 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and that is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Some would say auditioning to be President Trump's running mate in 2024. We'll ask our next guest about that. Ken Cuccinelli, founder of the Never Back Down 24 PAC that is supporting Governor DeSantis for president. He's also president of the Election Transparency Initiative. Works on election integrity issues. Ken, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Chris, good to be with you.
Exactly. So the big news yesterday, of course, Kevin McCarthy was ousted as the Speaker of the House. You heard Marjorie Taylor Greene's comments there. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' comments today sounded like that he was not a big supporter of Kevin McCarthy. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, in 2014, if you remember when Dave Bratt beat Eric Cantor in that primary by 12 points here in Virginia. So there was and he quit Congress. He pulled the ripcord. So there was a quick election for majority leader. And in that election, Ron DeSantis supported Raul Labrador, another Freedom Caucus member, over Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy, of course, won that election and eventually rose to be Speaker. And that's what Governor DeSantis was referring to. You know, Donald Trump endorsed Kevin McCarthy. Boy, he turned on him fast, didn't he? Woo! He threw him overboard yesterday. And but just like he endorsed Paul Ryan, Donald Trump endorsed Kevin McCarthy, whereas Governor DeSantis has been a consistent, sought a political alternative that's more conservative and more principle focused. And I think he made that point pretty clearly. And we've seen the failure of the McCarthy leadership, and we've seen the failure of President Trump's support for Kevin McCarthy. But yeah, he definitely turned on him quick, as he always does. Loyalty is a one-way street with the president.
Ken, observers of the last two debates have said that Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, was the winner of those debates. We all know that the national polls have President Trump at a huge lead, but we don't have a national primary, of course. This is going to be a state-by-state issue. In Iowa, I read that Ron DeSantis has received several agricultural endorsements. How is the governor doing in Iowa? Is he closing the gap with the former president?
Yeah, he definitely is. And the interestingly, maybe 3 weeks ago, the governor was in Iowa, and he did 6 events on one Saturday, right around the time that President Trump was announcing that he was going to do 5 events in 7 weeks. So, there are a lot of reasons for that. Age, legal issues, and frankly, the work ethic that Ron DeSantis brings to the table. Nobody can match that. And it's paying dividends. Most recently, the Farmers for DeSantis coalition rolled out, and that was obviously a very successful show of grassroots support. Grassroots, kind of a funny word to use with farmers, but we get the idea. Corn roots, I guess. But he has a lot of ground support. When Ted Cruz won the Iowa caucus in 2016, he had 12 state legislators supporting him. Ron DeSantis has 40, including his most recent supporter who flipped from Trump after President Trump started attacking Governor Reynolds, who is extremely popular because she's doing a great job in Iowa. And that didn't matter since she wouldn't endorse him. Trump attacked her and has attacked the heartbeat bill. She signed one. DeSantis signed one. He's essentially turned himself into a pro-choice candidate now. And that's quite different than the DeSantis record of protecting life, as he always has, whether he was in Congress or in the governor's mansion, and he'll do it as president.
We're speaking with Ken Cuccinelli, founder of the Never Back Down PAC and president of the Election Transparency Initiative. As I stated earlier, Governor DeSantis has been in the first 2 debates. He is probably going to make the third debate all of the parameters. But there's another debate that people are talking about and looking forward to, and that is his coming up debate with Gavin Newsom that will be moderated by Sean Hannity on November 30th. And I know you don't represent or work for the campaign, but give us the thinking behind this debate with the California governor.
Well, look, I mean, for all of us right of center, this is a great opportunity. There's never been a more accomplished conservative chief executive in our lifetimes, period, president or governor, than Ron DeSantis. And what did that earn him in the biggest swing state in America? A nearly 20-point reelection, winning independents, women, Hispanic voters, even within Hispanic voters, winning Puerto Rican voters, which is a particularly tough group for Republicans to win historically. How did he do it? He did it reopening Florida faster than almost any other state after just a couple of weeks of the Washington shutdown, led by Donald Trump. He got school choice. He's lowered taxes. He's got Florida down to the second lowest debt in the country. How does that compare with the explosion of debt going on in Washington, including, unfortunately, under President Trump, who holds the record among presidents for most debt added in his presidency. And you can keep going, guns, education. Ron DeSantis is the national leader against the radical woke agenda. He personally has inspired the Moms for Liberty, the parents, Army of Parents movement that is taking back school boards all across the country. And he helped them do it in Florida. He didn't just win for himself. He helped his whole team in Florida in that reelection. We were all looking for a red wave, right, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
I talked about it, as did many others. There was only a red wave. That red wave stopped in Florida, but it was a wave in Florida. Well, how does that happen there, but not in other places? And it's because we have the best leadership in America there. He helped win the school board in Miami-Dade County while he won that county, a county that Hillary Clinton won, I think, by 30 points. So he helped 34 school board candidates, 29 of them won. That's the kind of follow-through we need. It isn't enough to just win one office. You really need to bring your whole team along and over the line with you. And that's the kind of team play type leadership that Ron DeSantis has always demonstrated. And he's gotten results. He gets stuff done. It isn't all just about the talking. And look, I worked for President Trump. I like President Trump, but there was so much talk where there wasn't action, like taking on the cartels, shutting down the border. I mean, his super PAC's running ads saying, "Oh, he sent 5,000 troops to the border." Yeah, armed with paper clips and staplers and laptops. They didn't do anything. Their rules of engagement were to not engage. Ron DeSantis has made it very clear you can't build a wall on day one, but you can send enough military to that border to stop illegal crossings between the legal ports of entry. And he is going to do that. The president refuses to do that. The president still refuses to offer up special forces to go after the cartels. That was one of my great frustrations in the Trump administration, is we didn't do a single thing to challenge the cartels, despite my pleading with the president to do that, among others. And so the differences are huge. Though the difference for America will be very quick in the safety and security we achieve by closing that border with President Ron DeSantis. Just not something that President Trump is willing to do. And I know that's hard for some people to believe, but I was there in the middle of it. And like I said, I was proud to work there, proud to help do the good things we did, like remain in Mexico. And when COVID hit, we did the Title 42 turnarounds, turned right 90% of the people around the border eventually, but none of it was permanent. And we didn't return hardly anybody. ICE, the president pulled ICE operations. ICE, for your listeners, is the agency that deports people who are here illegally. And President Trump, on more than one occasion, stopped operations to go round up and deport such folks who were here illegally because he didn't want to look mean. Mm-hmm. And it's really that simple. We need someone who'll see the job all the way through. And you can see from the track record of conservative accomplishment by Ron DeSantis, he is that man. By the way, when you talk about the military, he's also the only veteran running.
Ken, you have worn a lot of hats in your career. You mentioned your stint in the Department of Homeland Defense. You also was the Attorney General for Virginia. I want to play a clip for you and get your thoughts on it. It's New York Attorney General Letitia James on the Trump case.
Trump's comments were offensive. They were baseless. They were void of any facts and/or any evidence. What they were comments that unfortunately fomented violence, and comments that I would describe as race baiting, and comments, unfortunately, that appeals to the bottom of our humanity. This case was brought simply because it was a case where individuals have engaged in a pattern and practice of fraud. And I will not sit idly by and allow anyone to subvert the law. And lastly, I will not be bullied. And so Mr. Trump is no longer here. The Donald Trump show is over. This was nothing more than a political stunt.
Ken, as a former Attorney General of Virginia, did you bring many cases that were past the statute of limitations?
Zero, actually. to be clear. And look, this is the political stunt here is by the Attorney General of New York. What Attorney General goes after business licenses when there's no victims claiming that they were harmed? I mean, that's what's going on here. I don't know that it was handled well by the Trump legal team, but nonetheless, it's just one more phony baloney matter. And this kind of grandstanding, like the clip you played, can you imagine? I can't imagine there's anything that anyone on our side does that Attorney General James wouldn't say is racist in some way. It's like the excuse for everything, and we hear it in the election transparency space all the time. Voter ID, oh, it's racist. Why is it racist?
Yeah.
And we saw that all unmasked in Georgia in 2022 after all the reforms and all the left-wing blow-up over those reforms, cleaning up Georgia elections. They still have more work to do, mind you, but they made it a lot better. And lo and behold, a left-wing university did a study after the 2022 election, and I've never seen this before, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
They found 0% of black voters were dissatisfied with their voting experience. 0% of black voters thought there was a problem with the Georgia election system. And on the other end of the scale, black and white voters were within 0.1% or 0.2% of one another in terms of thinking that the Georgia election process was good or excellent. And that's coming from a left-wing university analysis. So, we see this kind of rhetoric, not just in the election space, but in any of these political arenas. When the left doesn't have a good argument, they just call people names.
I'm glad you brought up the Election Transparency Initiative, because that was going to be my next question to you. You deal with election integrity issues. We know that non-citizens and those with green cards are voting currently in our elections in New York and Washington, D.C. Ron DeSantis made a statement yesterday saying that if he becomes president, is going to give the states the power to enforce immigration law. And here's what he said yesterday.
Well, I can tell you when I'm president, we've already said we are going to unleash the states. They're going to be equal partners with enforcing immigration law. If someone comes across the river illegally into Texas, Texas should be able to send them back. Why do we need to end up in this big process where people are going to court and all this other stuff? It's absurd.
And Ken, the question that I had for my partner, Speaker Tim Jones, who is an attorney, is the left going to argue, if this ever comes into place, that it's not the state's duty to enforce the border? It is the government, and will they have a case?
So in the Fifth Circuit right now, there's a lawsuit over the Texas buoys that they put in the river to deter people crossing. And one of the arguments that, frankly, the district judge, in my view, inappropriately skipped was the constitutional argument that under Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, Texas retained the authority to defend itself against an invasion. And that's what's happening there right now. The states have this authority. So with a President DeSantis, they'll have an ally in exercising that authority. That doesn't mean New Mexico and Arizona and California will do it with Democrat governors. But, if we win those governorships back, and as I mentioned earlier, DeSantis was a leader in leading the whole Republican team to victory in Florida. He can do the same thing across the country in governor's races and in Congress and Senate races as well, in which case he may have more allies on that border among the states. And by using that invasion authority that the states have, immigration law, they literally just get returned across the border, technically as prisoners of war. Texas doesn't have to ask anybody's permission to do it. And frankly, under President DeSantis, when he says that, I assume that means that some of the money that would be used to take care of our border would go to these states themselves. And that's a lot more efficient, a lot more effective. And you know what? When they know they can't get in, guess what, Chris? They don't come in the first place.
That is true. Ken, it's always good to talk to you, my friend, and you know you're always welcome on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show and on News Talk STL. I heard you the other day on Vic Porcelli's show. I know you guys got that Italian thing going there, so I'm not too bothered by that. But appreciate you coming on. You are the founder of the Never Back Down PAC that supports Ron DeSantis, and president of the Election Transparency Initiative, and an all-around good guy. Ken, thank you so much.
There you go. Thanks, Chris. Good to talk to you.
Good talking to you, my friend. And 5:26, we're going to speak with Joey Emma Reckenberg, co-host of the National Report on Newsmax. We'll get her pulse on what her viewing audience thinks about the ouster of Kevin McCarthy, the budget deals that were done, a whole mess of things that's coming up on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A few sprinkles or light showers will move through. I do expect some dry time this evening, and really the bulk of our steadier rain here in St. Louis is going to come overnight and Thursday morning until about midday Thursday. So low of 66 with rain and some thunder in the morning. Could be quite a soaker in the morning with a quarter of an inch to maybe up to an inch in some spots before it tapers off in the early afternoon. Cool day, 73 for the high. Thursdays will be dry in the afternoon and evening, but even cooler for Friday, a high of 68, a windy day, partly to mostly sunny. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Moved here from Indianapolis, decided to find a conservative talk show.
Live and local.
It's the Kim Gardner question. Yeah. Is this just incompetence, or is there malice behind this?
This is News Talk STL.
I was noticing the other day a bunch of friends, family members, colleagues, everybody's having birthdays, right? A lot of people, a lot of great birthdays, anniversaries, celebrations, weddings, all kinds of stuff happening in the fall, right, in the St. Louis region. If you need to get a special something for a special somebody, I want you to listen very closely. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers, the home of the Wow Diamond, and so much more, should be your one-stop shop for all of that. It is for us. I mean, 2961 Doherty Ferry Road is where they're located. It is our, in the St. Louis region, it's our neighborhood jewelry store since 1961. Richard and his entire team, multiple family generational team and more, they take great pride in being local and family owned. Honest jewelry solutions for over 50 years. When you stop by the store at 2961 Doherty Ferry Road, you will experience the Newstetter's difference today, featuring those incredible Wow diamonds. What else do they do? Everything. All jewelry repair, master engraving. Richard is one of the few master engravers. It is a lost art. We've got that talent right here in St. Louis. He can create anything. Richard is he's an incredible sketch artist. He really does some really amazing work. The guy can, if you've got a vision, he can put it into reality and create it for you right here in the St. Louis store. Jewelry appraisals, fine watch sales and repair, pearl and bead restringing, quality ring resizing. I could go on and on and on. Don't have time for it now, but check them out anytime 24/7. They're at wowdiamonds.com. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers, wowdiamonds.com.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
This is a scary time when it comes to your money, especially if buying a home. That's why you need Homestead Financial Mortgage. I know the owners, met the team. You can trust Homestead will be with you every step of the way. Call 24/7 with any question or concern. Homestead is on your schedule, not banker's hours. This is not just about buying a home. It's about trust. You can go to my website, larry.homesteadfinancial.com. larry.homesteadfinancial.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Follow Chris Arps on Twitter at Chris_Arps.
I'd like to start by thanking Speaker McCarthy, and I'm one person who's extremely grateful for his service. I have no advice to give to House Republicans except one. I hope whoever the next speaker is gets rid of the motion to vacate. I think it makes the speaker's job impossible, and the American people expect us to have a functioning government.
529 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And Joy, you're right about that. Mitch does sound a little moved there. He's got a little frog in his throat there. It was always said that McCarthy and Mitch were friendly, but they weren't exactly close. So showing the emotion surprises me a bit. Let's think what our next guest has to say about that. She is Emma Reckenberg, co-host of National Report on Newsmax. You can see her every morning from 8 to 11 a.m. with her co-host, Sean Kraisman. Emma, welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show.
Chris, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be speaking with you.
Excellent, excellent. Now, let's get all the formalities and all that out of the way. You have a St. Louis connection. You also have a connection to my co-host. Can you explain to the audience what that is?
Of course. I grew up in St. Louis. From Chesterfield, Missouri. I went to Parkway Central High School, and then I went on to Mizzou for college. So I'm a Missouri girl. Show me state, represent.
There you go.
And you're right. My family knows the Jones family. My dad actually was a colleague of Tim's. They worked at the same law firm for some time. So we've got that family connection. And I wanted to tell Tim that my dad has a new job promotion, by the way. He has been upgraded to father of the bride. I'm engaged.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations. Tim is out today. Tim is actually in the swamp. He's in Washington. We'll be back later this week, but he may be even listening some. I don't know. But congratulations, and wow, that's fantastic news. I had a chance to meet you in December. Yeah, when we were there for the visiting our relatives, and got a chance to meet you after I did the show, and you represent St. Louis very well, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I always got to bring those Midwestern values and that sense because I'm living in New York City. So it's always good to get home and just check in with the normal people, the people who are good, hardworking folks who have their heads screwed on right.
Exactly. Okay, the big news, of course, was the ouster of Kevin McCarthy yesterday. You are on a national television show, so you kind of get a pulse of the people. What has been the reaction from the Newsmax viewers who are, a conservative viewership?
Well, when we start our coverage, we're in the morning, so we like to just get the facts out there to our viewers. When you wake up and watch a national report, you're getting the information you need to know to start your day. So for our viewers today, you would have seen one of the 8 members who voted McCarthy out, and that's Congressman Matt Rosendale. So he stopped by the show, and basically he was saying, we weren't happy with how McCarthy was leading Republicans. They really didn't like the fact that there was that sort of bipartisan effort to pass the CR in order to avert a government shutdown. So therefore, he said, we want someone else in. We also heard from Congressman Mike Lawler. He's from New York. So again, he dialed into the show. He said that this was a big mistake. He said the only people that were laughing about it were Matt Gaetz, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, and Hakeem Jeffries. So that should tell you that the sides are very separate at this point. I asked both gentlemen if they thought the Republicans would be able to work together because, as we know, it's such a slim majority that the Republicans hold at this time. They do kind of have to get their majority in line if they want things to progress and move forward. It seemed like Rosendale was optimistic. He thought that they would be able to move past this. Lawler, not as much so. Just because of, how it was just a handful of these these Republicans who ended up joining with all the Democrats in the House to kick the Speaker out of his role.
Emma, the rumors that we're hearing, and luckily we can talk to you because you're talking to members that are there, is that the leading candidates are Steve Scalise, who's in leadership. He's second in command from Louisiana, and Jim Jordan from Ohio. He has, we've heard, has thrown his hat in the ring. Did the congressman or any of your sources on the Hill throw out any more names?
That's what I've heard so far. No one's really volunteering names, or at least they're waiting for the individual Congress members to volunteer themselves. I have heard the former President Donald Trump's name be floated, as I know you've been covering and discussing as well.
We have that clip.
He's focused. Yes, he said he was focused on his goal of returning to the White House. So you would think that would be a little distracting. And I also think perhaps a Speaker Jordan or a Speaker Scalise would be even a slightly less polarizing at this time than a Speaker Trump. Could you imagine?
Yes, that would, we throw around unprecedented and historic and all of that just willy-nilly nowadays, but it literally is amazing. This is the best time to be in political TV and in talk radio. It's absolutely amazing.
It's so true. I mean, like I said, I live in New York City. The Democratic mayor, Eric Adams, is now forced to become a champion for addressing the border crisis. Could you have imagined it? I mean, the sanctuary city, the fact that, we were, as a city, able to provide shelter and food and opportunities for anyone who claims asylum, now has run out of room. And so the mayor is headed to the border. So I'm interested to see how media, and even New York media, is going to cover that.
Well, give us the lay of the land on that, because Eric Adams, the mayor, has said that this illegal immigration is destroying the city. He has been quite critical of the Biden administration, but he did say that Biden has been doing good on crime and other issues, but with this border issue, it's been absolutely horrible. And then the governor of New York has basically said the door is closed, don't come here. And we've seen polls in New York City that said that the majority of the residents don't want New York City to be a sanctuary city, and they're tired of this crisis. Are you feeling that, being there in the city?
I do. And again, we've heard, I'm sure, as your listeners have been following along with this border story unfolding, the use of the Roosevelt Hotel. It's right in Midtown Manhattan, so it's right near Grand Central. You've got people commuting in and out of the city. It's a very, very busy, even touristy part of town. And that hotel has been tapped to house all of these migrants. It's overwhelmed. So if you're walking around the area, you will see some folks who would be staying at the hotel. I think what's really fascinating is because you've got Governor Abbott of Texas busing these migrants to sanctuary cities now, it's not just New Yorkers who think, we don't have an immigration crisis. I don't know what you're talking about. They realize that there is a problem because they're actually arriving in New York City as opposed to just leaving it to these border towns, which, by the way, we've had guests on our show from Texas, from Arizona, and they've been yelling about this problem. They've been trying to speak out and call on the administration, the Biden administration, to help out. And it's just completely gone unanswered. We've heard from the press secretary. She's blaming it all on Congress. She says the president's done everything he can. The Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, said the border is closed. And clearly, Chris, as you know, we can see just from the numbers alone that is not true.
Speaking with Emma Reckenberg, she's co-host of the National Report on Newsmax. You can watch it here in the Midwest from 8 to 11 a.m. Her co-host is Sean Kraisman. Before all of this speaker upheaval, the big news, of course, was the government shutdown. We averted that last weekend. That's what probably cost Kevin McCarthy his job. The talk now is who's going to succeed him, of course. But have any of your guests that you've had on lately talked about the potential government shutdown in 40 days or less, and how this not having a speaker kind of cuts the days that they have to negotiate a deal?
They're taking it day by day. What I found interesting was the acting speaker, McHenry, who said, we're going to delay the speakership vote until next week just so we can figure out what's going on. That, to me, is not a good sign about what could come in mid-November. Thought it was interesting. The first move acting Speaker McHenry decided to do was evict the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and also Steny Hoyer from their sort of congressional office times. Office spaces, I should say. So that was some sort of action that we've seen. But otherwise, you've got Congress members on recess. And you would hope that they're thinking about how to avoid a shutdown, but that just seems like a problem for the future. No doubt, though, we'll have coverage of it as we get closer to it.
And one last issue I want to discuss with you, of course, is the border. It's kind of been swept under the rug with all of this other news going on. But we've had a surge again, 9,000 plus illegal migrants are entering the country. The Biden administration has wanted these folks to stay in Texas instead of shipping them all around the country. If you had any recent guests talking about this crisis and how it's affecting the 2024 election.
Of course, like I said, you've got Democrats who are calling on the Democratic White House. Now, most recently, the governor of Illinois is reaching out. I find it interesting that, that they're running out of space essentially to house these people. And it's your heart breaks for them because these are families, by the way, and young children who are now sleeping on airport floors. At least that's what's happening in Chicago. I mean, it's totally inhumane, the situation. And that's also what we're hearing from folks who are on the border. They're talking about the dangerous journeys that these migrants have to take, and they might not realize what's really at stake. We've got our border correspondent, Jason Jones. He does a really fantastic job of bringing our viewers to the southern border. He's got daily reports. He's embedded with Texas DPS, and he's following a lot of the movements of the cartels that are working to sort of operate as smugglers, clearly, and run these people from different countries in Central and Southern America and South America, and take them on these dangerous journeys to get to the U.S. southern border. So Jason does a great job of just exposing sort of, in some cases, how violent it can be, not to mention, the illegal drugs that have been trafficked across the border as well.
Emma, I've been very proud, let me say, the last 2.5 years to appear on Newsmax and to meet all the great people at Newsmax when I was there earlier this year. Newsmax has experienced some phenomenal growth lately. Has that growth still continued? And tell us about your show.
Well, thank you so much. And that's wonderful to hear. And truly, we're lucky to have great guests such as yourself, Chris. We are growing, and I think it's because people are looking for a different news source that's going to get them the story coverage that you just aren't seeing on some of these more establishment media outlets. The border is a great example. Again, Jason Jones is there, so we've got a reporter who is embedded and bringing our viewers the very latest. When it comes to, political coverage, we have reporters and guests who are going to give a perspective that you're just not going to see, again, on sort of your mainstream outlets. I'm so curious to watch how the GOP primary ends up turning out. For me, as a host of this national political show mostly, the more the merrier when it comes to candidates, because I just love to hear the different perspectives. I think ultimately when you're looking at a crowded debate stage, it puts the pressure on for people to bring their A game. And so I want to see, how these different politicians will respond to specific policy differences. And I think that's how the viewer benefits the most. I know in some of these debates, of course, the leading contender, Donald Trump, is not on the stage. But we're covering, of course, the former president's campaign as well. We've been doing a lot of coverage of his New York trial. Of course, he's in Lower Manhattan showing up in the courtroom. So that's happened actually during our show these past few days. So we've been tracking the motorcade, and we're bringing our viewers the statements when he's speaking to the press. Again, some additional coverage that you just won't find anywhere else.
And that is Emma Reckenberg. She is a St. Louis native who has made it big at Newsmax in New York City. We want to congratulate you on your engagement. You can watch Emma every morning from 8 to 11 a.m. on the National Report on Newsmax with her co-host, Sean Kraisman. Emma, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to give the back home folks a few minutes.
You got it, Chris. Thanks so much. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Emma. Have a great show tomorrow. That's Emma Reckenberg. She is such a nice girl. So pleasant to meet her. She's very tall. She's, as I said, Joey, she's probably about your height. I have a picture with her when I was at Newsmax. She had to kind of crunch down a little bit so she didn't look like she towered over me, which a lot of tall women have to do that.
Wear your cowboy boots next time.
I need to wear my cowboy boots. You know, one of the most common things I get when listeners and folks meet me in person, they always say to me, "Oh, I thought you were taller."
That's rude. Listeners, you need to be more polite. Bring Chris some baked goods instead of being mean.
I'm used to it now, but I'm like, oh, thank you. I think I sort of.
I thought your beard would be bigger.
Exactly. Oh, I didn't know it was so gray.
Yeah.
5:44. We've got one last segment left. We'll lighten it up some. We may go over some of the big news stories that we didn't get to during the show. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A few sprinkles or light showers will move through. I do expect some dry time this evening. And really, the bulk of our steadier rain here in St. Louis is going to come overnight and Thursday morning until about midday Thursday. So a low of 66 with rain and some thunder in the morning. Could be quite a soaker in the morning with a quarter of an inch to maybe up to an inch in some spots before it tapers off in the early afternoon. Cool day, 73 for the high. Thursdays will be dry in the afternoon and evening, but even cooler for Friday, a high of 68, a windy day, partly to mostly sunny. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
Ousting McCarthy yesterday is just the beginning. What's next? And how does it affect the presidential election?
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Hey, folks, Tim Jones here. Yes, I agree with you. This is an uncertain economic time, an uncertain time in the real estate market, and pretty much just about everything. But we do know one thing for sure, because you, like me, I've been telling you this, that I've been talking to the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway. Rodney and Jen Wallner assure me this is still a great time to sell your home, still very much a seller's market. If it's time for you to sell your home, or if you just would like to talk to two incredible experts who know so much about this industry, then I'd like you to call the Wallner Home Selling Team. 314-810-SOLD. When you do that, they're going to offer you right off the top a flexible commission plan. It's going to be tailored to your needs, not some cookie cutter model. However, it'll always have one thing for sure, one thing you're going to want: a no obligation, no long-term commitment clause. Change your mind for any reason or no reason whatsoever, no problems asked. You can come back anytime you're ready. 314-810-SOLD. Rodney and Jen, a husband and wife team. You get that unique family perspective. They got so many approved home buyers. They'll guarantee to obtain you an offer. Want a free listing consultation? Want to talk about selling your home with this top producing real estate team? That would be Rodney and Jen Wallner. 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Vincent's Jewelers can help you pick the best gift for someone special. Another reason I like Vincent's has helped raise more than $1.5 million for local charities. Vincent's, locally owned, serving the community more than 42 years. Whenever I'm asked, what's your favorite jewelry store? My only jeweler is Vincent's on Olive, east of 270. Give Vincent's a chance to make you happy. Check for daily specials. Vincent's Jewelers Facebook or vincentsjewelers.com.
Get ready for winter by making sure your family is warm and safe when the bone-chilling weather gets here.
Mike Ferguson here for Anton's Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Energy Experts. Call them today to get your furnace tune-up. It's only $89, and it could save you hundreds or even thousands by preventing a breakdown. 314-338-3941 or antonshvac.com. Anton's installed our HVAC system, and we love it. Put their expertise and excellent customer service to work for you, just like they did for my house. antonshvac.com.
Tony Colombo here with a great offer from Zero Res. Just mentioned the Colombo special when you book a cleaning in October, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $129 plus $50 off an air duct cleaning. We've trusted Zero Res with our home for years, and 5,000 Google reviews with an average of 4.9 out of 5 says it all. Zero Res is the best when it comes to cleaning any surface in your home. Just remember to mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
Be part of something big. Your City, Your Voice Town Hall, a rare event, is coming to the heart of our beloved St. Louis City. Imagine this, Attorney General Andrew Bailey and Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft in person, side by side, taking on your burning questions. It's October 12th. Come and ask the questions that keep you awake at night. It's your moment to be heard. Visit stlouisrepublicans.com for details.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo for my friends at A Plus Plumbing and Drain, and they truly are our friends because they have done it all at our house over the years, from putting in a new faucet to installing a whole new bathroom from scratch. The team at A Plus has always done great work for a great price. A Plus Plumbing and Drain is a local, family-owned business that can take care of all your plumbing needs and specializes in new construction and home renovation. Call A Plus for your next project at 636-288-7126 or through Facebook at A Plus Plumbing and Drain.
This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Follow Chris Arps on Twitter at Chris_Arps.
I have no case against Trump. But I'm here, stuck here, and I can't campaign. I'd rather be right now in Iowa. I'd rather be in New Hampshire or South Carolina or Ohio or a lot of other places, but I'm stuck here because I have a corrupt attorney general that communicates with the DOJ in Washington to keep me nice and busy because I'm leading Biden in the polls by a lot.
5:51 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and I think the president is right there. This is election interference. I have said many, many times that these crimes that the president has been charged with, I do not see the urgency that these need to be tried before the election. These alleged crimes, to me, could have easily been tried after the election. They could have thrown out that whole image of election and interference. It makes the case that these cases were brought in order to hurt the president's chances of gaining re-election to the presidency. I think he is right about that. You know, Joy, a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, we had on a young lady talking about a special school out in Lake St. Louis called the Lafayette Academy. And I was very impressed by what Katie McKinney, who was the founder of the school, was talking about, how they teach the kids classics, philosophy, Latin. So when I got home, I told my wife, I said, Becky, please set up something so we can go out to Lafayette Academy in Lake St. Louis and see what they're doing out there. And so we went out there, took a tour. They have kindergarten through 12th grade, and I've got to tell you, I was just so impressed. And I've always said that if I had children at that age, they would not go to public school. I would do whatever is possible to put them in a private school, and that would be the place that I would put them. They use a Hillsdale curriculum. The kids were so well behaved and mannered, and they were learning things that I never learned even throughout my high school career. So want to give a shout out to Lafayette Academy out at Lake St. Louis. Katie McKinney and her staff are doing just great work out there. And it makes you think, how bad our public schools are right now. Just think if you could have just tens of thousands of mini Lafayette academies out there, it would bring our educational system to a new level that it is not currently. So Lafayette Academy, Katie McKinney, thank you so much for the tour. Becky and I really appreciated it.
Did you get a report card? Did she
I
say you
did
could
not
come back?
get
Oh,
a
okay.
report card, but they were teaching me stuff because I was not a very strong math student. And I told them I know exactly where I went wrong in math. The adding, subtraction, I was all on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
In third grade, when we did borrowing, and I was like, what do you mean you take the 9 from here and add this and all? That doesn't make any sense. It took me like about 2 weeks, to figure that out, and I've been lost at math ever since. But they are teaching it visually, a method to show you, and that's how we learn. We learn visually. When you think of a bear, you don't think of the words B-E-A-R. You think of the animal, a bear, and then we learn visually, and that's how people should be taught. That's how I'd learn things visually.
Chris and I went to Jamestown Elementary,
We
and
did.
there were no walls between the classrooms, so we
It
got
was like that when
easily
you were
distracted.
there?
Yeah.
All right.
It could be Jamestown's wall. They built walls since then, I heard. So
I did. I went up there last summer because
Mhm.
I'd heard they built walls, and I was just so disappointed that these kids didn't have the experience of being able to shoot spitballs from the 5th grade
Yeah.
into the kindergarten across the library. They will never have that pleasure of doing that.
Yeah, the library right there in the middle. Oh, I miss it.
What did your parents do? My parents, everybody's parents, because we were the first school, the first classes to go
Yeah,
to
you
that
chose
school.
like the mascot
It
and
was
the colors.
It was a brand new school that opened in 1976. We were the first classes to go there, and we actually chose the mascot, Jamestown mascot. But I remember all of our parents telling us the summer before that there are no walls in these classrooms, so you're going to have to really, really pay attention and do your work. Did you get a similar talk before your entry into Jamestown?
I don't think so, even though my family also went to Jamestown
Mhm.
before me. I remember they had the little cubbies that were
The
built into the
cubbies,
ground.
yes.
So in the library, you could take that down a few
The
steps
cave.
and
they
get all
called-
cozy.
Those were the caves.
Yes, the caves.
What do you mean all cozy? You're not supposed to be thinking about that.
Taking
People
naps
did.
in the
yeah.
little
Yeah, those
caves.
were called the caves.
Speaking of bears, yeah.
Yeah, Jamestown Elementary. And there was another school in Hazel School District that also was open. I don't know if you remember Graneman School over
Mm-mm.
there on Redmond Road. Those were the 2 concept schools they built back then to teach children. I've always wondered what was the thing behind kids will learn better if there's all these freaking distractions where you can look in other rooms and have all these distractions around you. How was that supposed to help you learn?
My grandma
better?
always says that when my aunt and uncle were little kids, they couldn't be separated. My uncle just loved his sisters
Yeah.
so much that the only school he could probably go to was Jamestown, so he could see
See,
her
yeah.
across the library and know that she was okay.
But I have to admit, I was a little worried about it. And, there's going to be something new and distracting. But we got used to it.
Yeah, I
Real
think
easy.
use your indoor voice
And
and
that's
learn
wh-
like what that was.
And that's where, like I said, I first learned how to make a slingshot and how to make spitballs. Seriously, that's a true story. Good show today, Joey. We had great guests. Up next is Larry Connors, USA. Today, Larry will be talking about the left cackling over what happened in the House. Today, some words to remember from President Reagan, and there's a vaccine mandate in a red state. That's Larry Connors, USA, 6 to 8. You've been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel Financial Advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call